With the Eagles' preseason opener less than 24 hours away, the pressure to perform is mounting for some key Eagles who dominated training camp so far, and for some who are just fighting to stay on the roster. And while the jury is still out on if the starters will actually play, there are plenty of players in need of a big game tomorrow to ease the pressure building in Philadelphia. I'm Thomas Mott, this is The Thomas Mott Show. Preseason games are very vanilla, like everybody knows that. The goal is not really to win or to score a bunch of points or even to look good, although obviously it's not a bad thing. The goal of the preseason is to confirm what the coaches have been seeing in practice for weeks and weeks during camp. Build off the good things players have done in pads and prove that it's actually possible to continue that in an actual game setting against a brand new opponent. Remember, the Birds have been practicing against themselves really for weeks now. You start to learn tendencies, tells of the line of scrimmage, anything to possibly give you an edge after your 30th rep against A.J. Brown. So Friday's preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens is really the first real test for the Philadelphia Eagle players to prove they have what it takes to make a roster, become a starter, or just survive for another week. Now, of course, with all that being said, I think we could still see some quote-unquote starters play on Friday night. Maybe not all of them due to the rain that's potentially going to happen in Baltimore, but maybe some of them. Now, Nick Sirianni yesterday failed to confirm or deny exactly what the plan is, but he basically didn't say no.
Same thing I said to you guys. We'll see. You go through these practices, you go through the week. We've had a good 3 days of practice, looking to get our fourth one in here today. We got to see what it's like after this and where guys are how guys are feeling. They don't particularly know exactly what we're doing yet, so they deserve to know before anybody else.
Nick, we'll see.
Yeah, everything's always you asking the weather? Yeah, everything's always taken into account. We'd be foolish not to take everything into account, and we will take everything into account.
As of now, Kansas City and Buffalo have already confirmed their starters will play at least a quarter this weekend in their respective preseason games, so why shouldn't Philadelphia, with new coaching staff, plenty of fresh faces, actually follow suit? And sure, as I mentioned, predicted rain is definitely an issue, and maybe you hold out the real ones, the A.J. Browns and Jalen Hurts of the world, until the second preseason game, but just know that the Eagles are definitely eager to see a lot of these quote-unquote starters play at some point the next couple of weeks. And pressure is funny. It can be good or bad. You're either under a lot of pressure because we expect you to perform, or you're under a lot of pressure because we don't expect you to be very good. For instance, take Johnny Wilson. He's got to be under tremendous amounts of pressure heading into Friday's game. He will play, and the pressure to stand out has got to be building just based on the fact he's been fantastic so far during training camp. Wilson's been the player of the past couple of weeks. There was one unexpected rising star so far, it would be the 6'7" receiver from FSU. Going from a, fifth-round draft pick, probably your fifth-string wide receiver, to actually starting the past few days means he's been doing a lot of good things. But if he can't duplicate those in a preseason setting against opponents' number 2 cornerbacks, maybe it'll start to temper the expectations. Pair all of that with the massive opportunity he's now been given, with Paris Campbell being out an extended period of time due to a groin injury, and apparently now being listed as a cut candidate, according to Philly Voice, interesting there, further presents added pressure on Wilson to grab the number 3 receiver spot by the horns and not let go. Personally, I think he's going to do it. I'm expecting big things from him tomorrow night. If you agree, why don't you comment Wilson and drop a like down below. All right, so we all know football is just around the corner. Like, Philadelphia is going to play their first game in just a couple of weeks, and if you're like me, you're definitely going to be going to a couple of games at the link. So I partnered with SeatGeek to sponsor today's video to help you go watch the Birds. Maybe it's your first time, or maybe you go every single year. SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app inside the App Store, and it has over 28 million downloads up to this point, and there's over 70,000 different type of concerts, sports games, and venues to go to. Finding tickets with SeatGeek, it's honestly super easy. They take all the tickets from across the web and put it into one place, and even better, they rate the best deals on a scale from 1 to 10. Little hint here, look for those green dots, which means it's a good value. Okay, great example here. So we just saw this 10, amazing deal. You see it right down there in actual green. You go right over to the left here. These ones are in yellow. See how much more expensive they are? And they're in yellow, meaning 4, okay deal. SeatGeek makes sure you get the best price and really best experience possible. And obviously, I came through for you guys, so use my promo code MOTT to get $20 off your next purchase of Eagles tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your next purchase of Eagle tickets just using my code MOTT. Go down below in my description box also. There's a little link to download the app. Makes it super easy. Get your tickets today. Now, the Wilson pressure, again, is good pressure because he's been doing really well so far at training camp, but let's go to somebody who's got maybe some negative pressure from struggling, a.k.a. Nakobe Dean. Now, I know we harp on Dean a lot. I see the comments saying we're being unfair, but reporters have noted extensively Dean struggles the past couple of weeks, especially in pass coverage this camp. Going out against second stringers in Baltimore and struggling yet again in pass coverage is only going to add to the mounting pressure building behind the former UJ linebacker. Throw in the fact the rest of Eagles Nation seemingly is convinced Zach Bond and Devin White are going to be the starters, and Dean has got to do something really, really special the next couple of weeks to really improve his image as a linebacker on the Birds. Now, someone I do expect to play at some point this preseason is cornerback Isaiah Rodgers. Rodgers, he's basically already accepted the challenge and the pressure of winning the cornerback 2 job by basically winning the cornerback 2 job at this point during camp. But having not played in over a calendar year, it's out on the football field in a very long time, has got to have him itching to actually prove he can do it in a real game setting. And as mentioned at the top of the show, performing in camp and performing on the field are two different things. If Rodgers rolls out in the preseason and let's say throws the clamps on any receiver he faces against Baltimore or the Patriots or the Vikings, that cornerback 2 battle that's already basically locked up is fully done for. And the hype that's been building around number 34 since he went on Josh Davis's show a couple of weeks ago, which is already astronomically high, is only going to get bigger and better, and he's going to be more and more loved by Eagle fans. Oh, and apparently a contract extension, maybe it's already in the works. Howie does that sort of thing pretty often. If he feels confident they found a diamond in the rough, again, they might give him a contract extension now, make him happy, lock him down on a cheaper deal, therefore adding more pressure for Rodgers to perform tomorrow night and going forward. Now, speaking of Howie Roseman, I'm going to throw in an out-of-the-box pick here. How about Howie Roseman himself being under a lot of pressure? Now, go with me on this. Think about it. Roseman has assembled an Avengers level of talent in Philadelphia. The expectations for the 2024 Eagles are absolutely sky high. And yet everyone quietly, and I read the comments, I see what you guys are saying, is still concerned about the safety position. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's already dealing with some sort of minor but real shoulder injury, and the depth behind him leaves a lot to be desired. Roseman not adding another safety and instead seemingly putting his entire trust in terms of backups in the hands of James Bradberry, figuring out how to play a position he's never played at the pro level, is a big gamble. Philly is one injury away from Bradberry starting at safety, and then a couple of bad Bradberry safety games away from, I guess, forcing currently injured, who I love, but still young, Cooper DeJean to play safety, or often injured and former cornerback, Avonte Maddox, or I guess Sidney Brown whenever he fully heals from his injury. And while I've said Philadelphia is going to be fine in the secondary, I did it last night on our Wednesday Link Live, I'm not that concerned. They have a ton of players here. They can rotate through a bunch of them and hope that Bradberry hits, or DeJean hits, or Avonte Maddox hits. There still is that added bit of pressure to make sure that your weakest link is not something you could have plugged at some point during the offseason. Now again, and Howie I trust, I think the Eagles are going to be just fine. I'm not panicking, but I read your comments. I think a lot of you guys are. But we can't talk about expectations and pressure heading into a preseason game and not think that Roseman is kind of holding his breath to see just how good the safeties behind Gardner-Johnson and obviously the Ghost actually perform in a real-life setting. Now, of course, there are plenty of other honorable mentions. Not sure how much Kenny Gainwell will play, but Will Shipley is clearly putting a lot of pressure on the veteran running back to not lose reps to basically an unproven rookie. Throwing Mekhi Becton and Tyler Steen, maybe that's the last remaining real position battle not to be sorted out. Got to keep an eye on that one for sure. And I think Keely Ringo may have already lost the starting cornerback job to Rodgers, as mentioned, but definitely doesn't want to make things worse, and technically there's still a lot of time until the season opener, so theoretically a good preseason game, a good couple of weeks at training camp, and he could win back that job. Now again, it's all preseason, right? We're not trying to make anyone panic, not trying to put too much pressure on this player or that player, but you have to have expectations. You got to have players to watch heading into a preseason game, and so Johnny Wilson, Isaiah Rodgers, obviously the secondary in terms of the safety position, and all the players we just mentioned in the honorable mentions are all real things I'm keeping an eye on to see what happens in Philadelphia on Friday night. Now, of course, myself and Josh Davis will be live to cover the entire preseason game here on my channel and his channel. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe and check in. Can't wait to start our brand new Eagles live game broadcast with you. Been working a lot on making that the best possible one here on YouTube. Hope you guys join us and enjoy. Till then, I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.